Happy November, and what a wild week of women's college volleyball. We had upsets aplenty, a bloodbath around the top 15 as we welcome you to another episode of Six Rotations. He's Mick, I'm Daniel. So happy to be with you as always, brought to you by SNA Sports. Better equipment for a better game. And Mick, where do we want to start? Miami beats Stanford in 5 sets in a wild one. Missouri comes back to beat Texas. Oklahoma also beats Texas in 5. Washington knocks out Oregon in 5. Nebraska sweeps Wisconsin. Take your pick.
Start with Nebraska and Wisconsin. Expected a great match. Did not expect to see Landfair in the starting lineup, but for Wisconsin, really makes a little bit of difference in their manpower. They probably got a little bit closer to Pittsburgh this weekend with that win over Wisconsin. What did you think?
Yep, a couple weeks ago I had said I think Wisconsin or I think Nebraska is also a top 1 team. I just think there's a 1A and a 1B, and we've kind of seen that play out over the last month. Taylor Landfair's improvements through the last 3 months from when I saw the team in the first serve in Louisville to now, and her comfortability with Bergen and everything. Lexi Rodriguez passing it nearly a 3-0 is just out of control. And, for Landfair to lead the team in kills is something that you would not have on your bingo card. For Nebraska to sweep Wisconsin on the road surprised a lot of people. I'm not shocked anymore when Nebraska does dominance. They're just Pittsburgh and Nebraska. I'm ready to see a chalky kind of finish for them, because then it'd be really interesting if they were the number 1 and number 2 overall. Of course, a lot can still happen. But Mick, we had our giveaway last week for either your jacket or my jacket. We wanted total points in that Nebraska-Wisconsin match. There was not anyone who gave me a guess of under 189 points. So that's the winning. The total points was only 137, and Ramon wins with 189. Crazy. Everyone was thinking it was going to go deep. Instead, it was lopsided. And there's a lot of storylines coming up into this week. I'm really excited for Nebraska, Oregon on Thursday. Just a matchup we don't usually get, of course, with the conference realignment. UNC will take on Pitt on Friday. That might be a test for the Panthers. BYU, Utah on Friday as well as big. But how about Texas? I mean, Marina Crownover gets the revenge. The former Longhorn comes back and beats her squad, and what was it, 10 years without a Big 12 home loss, and now 3 conference home losses in 2 weeks for the Longhorns. Is there a button
Yeah,
to be worried?
yeah, I would be worried. That's 3 5-game losses at home in 2 weeks. And it's a matter of Texas not being able to score enough points, but also seemingly starting to lose a little confidence in their passing and their serving. And the seniors, the older kids, don't seem to be picking it up. And I'm just confused as to what's going on. I think they look a little bit confused themselves. So they've got 3 weeks left to prepare here, maybe 4 weeks left to prepare. Probably need to get back in the gym and just grind and not worry about wins and losses. They're third in the conference right now. They thought they were going into the conference to be first. We got Kentucky first. We got an upstart Missouri at second right now. Texas is third with A&M and a bunch of people close behind. But A&M losing to Mississippi State was 3-0 was astonishing to me after beating Texas. So nothing surprises me anymore.
That was a tough one. If you're Texas, you at least want your losses to be to teams who turn around and go on runs. Meanwhile, we talk a little bit more about Nebraska. They've won 19 straight now. There was a bit of a worry that I thought maybe they would not be able to wake up for that Northwestern match, but it was the largest attendance in NU history with over 6,000. And the first set was kind of tight, and then the rest was an absolute, runaway for the Huskers. And so with that, I want to talk about more of the big matches, but let's go ahead and show you the top 10 here, because the big change is the dropout of Stanford. They lose to Miami. although it was as tight of a fourth and fifth set as it gets. Creighton jumps into the top five, their highest ranking in program history. SMU into the top 10, their highest ranking in program history, as well as SMU had a strong sweep of Virginia. But what did you think? Were you able to watch any of that? Grace Lopez for Miami. There are three teams, Mick, in the Southeast or the Southeast Conference. I'll go Texas, Florida, and Miami that I do not want to see in the first two rounds of the NCAA tournament if I'm a host.
Yeah, well, exactly. I don't want to play them in the first two rounds, and I'll tell you what, that the Stanford Miami match was one of the most fun matches to watch. I'm yelling at the setter, "Why aren't you setting Lopez?" Because she every time she got the ball, she scored. Stanford finally got her somewhere around 28 or 29, but it was back and forth, and it was side out volleyball. It wasn't long rallies; it was termination, and I was really impressed with Miami. But I saw them come back and beat Texas after being two down, and when they get in a roll and they get in rhythm, you just want to get out of Dodge because there's nothing that stops them. They make plays, they get first ball kills. They're a legitimately scary team for the tournament.
Grace Lopez, 27 kills, and she hit over 400. It was 31-29 in the fourth, and then 16-14 in the fifth. And then Stanford was on the rails at Florida State on Sunday on ESPN, but were able to pull away in the fourth. Is that a good way to put it? I mean, I'm
Yeah,
not too
yeah,
impressed with the Stanford team.
yeah. They don't travel well characteristically anyway, and this is a long trip, and they go from where they went, Miami to Florida State, and they're seeing a big team at Florida State. Florida State's got good size. They've got good athletes. There's another tournament team that I don't want to mess with a whole lot. Florida State can bring it at certain nights also. And I thought Stanford might lose at Florida State. That was a chance for Florida State to assert themselves and get a lot of attention. It just didn't happen, but it was close.
Yeah, you know what? In the old day of volleyball, they would all be playing some team locally. But this year, and let's with that, let's I don't want to show it all because I want to talk more about Georgia Tech as well, because Georgia Tech's right on that fringe. Texas drops to 15. How about Arizona State? I think 11 is still not high enough for the Sun Devils, who swept Utah on the road, beat BYU on the road in five. How about Arizona State against Kansas this week, Mick?
Yeah,
That might be game of the year stuff coming
yeah.
up. That's going to be what day is that? Wednesday. Kansas, Arizona State should be really fun.
And I think that's a game everybody should watch because Kansas is one of the lowest friendly teams you're going to get, meaning they don't give you points. They give you about 6.5 points per set, and they're scoring up in the 18%. So if you're going to beat Kansas, you have to score and you have to not give them any points. And it'll be interesting to see how Arizona State, excuse me, handles this because they also are very good with stats. And so I think that's going to be a really fun game, and we're going to find out just where both of these teams are when they play each other.
So back to the conversation point there, because we talked about it, it locally still plays an impact. And with all of these teams in Florida that are going to be tournament teams, Florida, Florida State, Miami, how many of them are going to make the trip if Georgia Tech is able to host? Georgia Tech survived chaos this last weekend. They went to five with Duke and North Carolina and won both.
Yeah, North Carolina's on the upswing, but Duke is not. And Duke
Yeah.
had a chance to take that match. And I watched a little bit of that, and I was amazed. I don't know what Georgia Tech's doing. They just only show up part of the time. And when they do, they're really good. And when they don't, they're in trouble.
All right, one other big upset. Oregon drops from 10 to 12. They were upset by Washington. Washington was a team that started the season undefeated through 10 or 12 games and now playing themselves. Missouri is the first team out of the top 25. Washington is the second, and then A&M. But that loss that A&M suffered was a poor one. Where do you feel like the Pacific Northwest lies? I do think it's just Washington and Oregon that are going to be in tournament worthy.
Well, I thought Washington would give SC more of a run. SC won that 3-1, but Washington lost their left side in the Oregon match at the end of that match to an injury. And so I don't think we can take anything from SC's victory over Washington because of that. SC, however, is on the upswing. They're playing at a much lower give rate. They're not giving the opponents 10 or 11 points per set anymore. And they're in system. Their setter is playing really, really well. And so I think you have to put SC in that watch list also. They're athletic enough, and Batenhorst is now playing like a Division I first team All-American. She had only one error the other night in that match with UCLA and had something like 17 to 20 kills and 31 swings. She was really a force in that match. So I think you got to watch those teams a little bit closer too.
Yeah, I mean, USC is number 20. I don't think they have anything to worry about. UCLA, on the other hand, swept by Oregon. That would have been a good chance for the Bruins to pick up some steam, but just did not pick up the plays late in each set to do so. Meanwhile, Baylor and TCU continue in a bit of a holding pattern. TCU avoided an upset against Iowa State. And again, teams like Kentucky and Minnesota are just slipping through. But if they continue to hold on, they should be in a spot to host come tournament time.
Yeah, Kentucky seems to be on an upswing now. Skinner's teams play very well, usually mid to end of the season, and it looks like they're making their move right now. Minnesota has the athletes. They now have both left sides back, I'm told. I think we want to watch them the next 3 or 4 weeks to see how they come in. They could be a factor also in the tournament, and I'm glad the coaches recognize their ability to now play at 100%.
All right, well, we take a look at the upcoming matchups for this week, Mick. And starting on Wednesday with Kansas, Arizona State. That's going to be really fun. Winner will take the lead in the Big 12 conference. If you want to, two screen it up, Texas at Mississippi State would be an opportunity for the Longhorns to right the ship. And then Thursday, a lot of these matches this week, Mick, are late. Thursday, 10 p.m. Eastern, Nebraska, Oregon. Friday, 9 p.m. Eastern, BYU, Utah. The Holy War should be really, really interesting. One of those teams may work their way into the top 16. And then Georgia Tech, Stanford, Saturday at 10 p.m. Those are our late night matches this week. North Carolina will take on Pitt Friday, SMU Sunday, and that wraps it up for our ranked versus ranked matchups. But Mick, tonight, if you're watching this on Tuesday, 9:30 Eastern on the Mountain West Network, the border battle. Top three teams in the conference of the Mountain West. I'll be on the call. Colorado State leads the Mountain West, looking for a revenge tour. Wyoming at home will match up in a big rivalry. They always play each other well. So I'm out here in Laramie getting ready for that matchup.
Well, I'm in Seattle, so we're doing the too far time zones, and we're both having a good time here. But did you mention the Penn State-Wisconsin match coming up?
Oh, that's a great call.
Yeah, I think that's the match of the week. That is going to be one where Penn State's got to show that they can handle this third spot in the poll, and Wisconsin wants to move up. And obviously, they didn't get it done against Nebraska, but it was a spirited match. So I'm really interested in Nebraska Penn State.
Yeah, I missed that one. That's 3:30 Eastern Saturday on NBC. So another NBC matchup on college football Saturday. Really, really need the support. Great call there, Mick. That's in Madison after the Badgers take on Iowa on Friday night. Something's got to give in that matchup of top 10 teams. I'm curious to see how that wrangles out. Let's take a look at the coaches, or excuse me, the media poll as we look at the Volleyball magazine. No new teams, but a drop for Texas from 9 to 13. Dayton and Kentucky rounding it out there. Where do you have any issues with this top 10 here? I like Arizona State's jump from 13 to 9. Wisconsin stays put at 7. Stanford falls from 6 to 8.
Yeah, and I do think this poll is pretty good. Now, when we get to Dayton, I've watched Dayton, and I think they're talented. I think they're playing at a high level. Whether they're playing at a high enough level against high level competition is the real question. I want to see how Marquette does this coming week with Creighton. That's the other one I want to watch because Creighton should handle Marquette easily. And if they don't, then maybe Dayton also is playing at a high enough level that we should be respectful of their 16th position. There are some hot teams that won in that top 16, and why it's important is the 16 teams that are going to get to host first and second rounds, those are what we're looking at here, and that's why the top 16 is important. So it'll be interesting to see what the NC2A committee thinks relative to the Volleyball Magazine poll, relative to the coaches poll. So we've got a lot of polls here, and then we got to kick in the KRPI and the RPI and look at those two. And by that time, we're all going to have our eyes crossed because there's going to be too many numbers.
A lot of numbers, Mick. A lot to still kind of work itself out, but I'm really excited to see. And I'm trying to say, let's see, should we do another giveaway? I think we should do another giveaway. And I don't love total points. I like picking a few and have the total sets. So what we'll do is let's write this down. We'll do
How
can
about differential? How about differential?
in what way?
Well, points scored versus points given, and you pick the
Nick, now,
difference.
now you're giving me math assignments to do. You know, let's,
All right.
and you know what? We're going to reward those that are still watching. So we're not going to talk about it at the top. I'm not going to promote it. We're going to do a giveaway this week, and it will be the total sets played in Kansas, Arizona State, Penn State, Wisconsin, and BYU, Utah. So those three
Oh,
matches
good.
give
All
me the
right.
total sets played. And if you get it right, no closest to. You got to get it right to get a jacket. And I'm excited to see, make sure to email six rotations, spell it all out, SIX rotations at gmail.com. And now, Mick, we asked a question last week for those to comment on YouTube who they think would be the good coach options for the United States women's national team. And Hazel thought Dan Fisher would be a good choice. One guy, Tim, thought maybe Tyler Hildebrand. He got a little bit of hate for that. Kathy George threw a name out there. Taiba Hinnie Park. That would be a really good one. And Aaron Virtue as well. Russ Rose, Hugh McCutcheon making a return would be quite funny. But I do like the Tanif Haiba Park throw out. She took an underrated PVF team all the way to the championship match in San Diego, and she's got experience with the United States national team. I like that one. What do you think about Fisher too?
Well, I think Fisher's the one that a lot of people think has been putting in the time and effort, and there are several others also that have been doing that. The thing is, we're hosting the Olympics in 28. We can't make a mistake on this hire for this quadrennial, and it's important that the women's team play in the top four going into this Olympics and have a chance to win. And I think it's a really hard call. The question will be, do we look at just collegiate coaches? Do we look at the professional coaches who are coaching here in the United States in both leagues over this next year? Who do we look at? And I like throwing out all these names. I think we ought to get them all out there, really take a good look. This is John Spraw's second hire. He hit a home run on Karch for the first hire, but he weakened the women's program a little bit with that. So we have to have somebody that's willing to dedicate themselves to 4 years of really building this back up.
Yep, couldn't agree more. Very excited. Obviously, the position of our sport is in a great spot. I love shouting out the attendance records that are broken every week. I talked about Northwestern's first ever sellout of 6,000 fans on Sunday. Virginia set their Memorial Gym record of over 1,100 as well over the weekend. And so hopefully every week we can get more and more big news and exciting breakdowns. We've got huge winning streaks. Creighton's won 14 in a row. Dayton's won 17 in a row. Nebraska's won 19 in a row. I hope we get another fun week of volleyball. And if another self plug there, Tuesday night, 9:30 Eastern on the Mountain West Network. It's free. If you type in themw.com/watch or download it onto your smart TV. It'll be a fun match for me as we wrap things up, Mick. An abbreviated episode from different portions of the country. We're both pushed all the way up to the corner. How cold is it in Seattle?
Oh, it's under 40 right now, raining, and I got my nice warm six rotations sweatshirt on, and I'm pretty cozy right now.
Yeah, it was 29 when I woke up here in Laramie, 7,000 feet above sea level. So we want to sign off and wish everyone a healthy week and hopefully all goes well for uh, election stuff, and we still have a country to promote the broadcast for next week. He's Mick, I'm Daniel, and this is Six Rotations.